my audacious contagiousness that I possess. We all have that. Yeah. Every single one of us can inspire and impact people in profound ways simply by doing the things that we're meant to do.
Audience, welcome to the show. Today we have Audley Stephenson, a big figure in life. He's over the top, abundantly powerful. The commissioner of the National Basketball League of Canada. He's a motivational speaker. Just being around him, you'll feel your energy go. You'll enjoy this show. Welcome. Audley, you know, as we start to really look at, and we've talked about it before,
yep.
As we really look at living a bold, audacious life, right? Let's just talk about what does that mean?
I'm going to get a little bit of a history. So, we all know that in March of 2020, when the pandemic hit, we all globally we felt the same thing, the exact same time, where everything kind of just shut down and stopped. And working with the basketball league and sports, we weren't immune to it either. And what I found when the sports had stopped, and I wasn't able to participate in this thing that I loved, I felt this void, I felt this gap, and I slipped into a state of depression almost, because I was just like, what do I do? And this was a thing that defined me for so long. It was a part of my world, my life, and we were on the verge of entering the playoffs, right? So exciting the playoffs get, all of a sudden you don't have that. And I remember for several months just feeling lethargic and just kind of like, what's going on? And I've never been in this place before, so not understanding what it was about. And it wasn't until I got into a conversation, a dialogue with a friend of mine, I think I said, yeah, I don't have basketball. And then it just suddenly hit me. I'm like, that's it. That's what's happening. And so I really started thinking, okay, what are the replacement behaviors? What can I use? What can I do instead of? Now, podcasting is something that I'd been a part of my life. I mean, my first podcast was in 2007. The very first time I jumped into podcasting, and I probably had 5 or 6 podcasts over the years. And I mean, now they're like a business card. Everyone's got them, right? Like, everyone's got a podcast. But back then it was a fairly new thing. And so I felt myself drawing back that thing that I loved, and that I found easy and natural to me. And then I started to go through this process, Anthony, of, okay, so what do we want to talk about? Like, sure, we could talk about basketball. That's easy. But it was more, I wanted to find that thing that mattered to me. And it was at that point I started doing that, that digging and that deep dive, if you will, into myself to figure out what mattered, what was important. And when I stopped and sort of did this analyzation of my life, if you will, and I was looking at my successes, my accomplishments, my victories, all of that, I realized that everything that I had done was on the strength of demonstrating some form of audacity. Mm-hmm. And the moment it hit me, I'm like, that's it. That's exactly what it is. This is what I need to let people know about, because I can show you how it worked in my life and in my world. And that was sort of the beginning of that journey of understanding audacity. But the key for me is that it was something that was always there. And I believe it's something that's in all of us. It's a matter of tapping and uncovering that. And I'm sure there's different things, or there may be fears or uncertainties, suspicions, doubts that hold us back from being able to do that. And there's no question. I want to acknowledge and honor that those things are real for people. But that shouldn't be what stops you from doing the things that we're meant to do. And so that's where the journey for me started to really understand what it means to be audacious. And through that process, I developed what's called the B.O.L.D Framework. And I feel that when within that B.O.L.D Framework, and I'll run through it for you. But I feel that if you are able to harness and access all of these things within the framework, that's on the pathway to living your best audacious life ever. And so we start off with the B. The B in the framework starts with better than you were yesterday. Nice. And that's all about learning. Okay. Yesterday we had wonderful victories, wonderful successes, and that's great. Celebrate them in the moment. But today, what can you do to do better than that? And it's always, it's a constant improvement. It doesn't stop. Life doesn't stop. Life continues. And not to say that we don't celebrate our successes. We absolutely do, because that gives us momentum to move forward, but it doesn't stop there. When I was in grade school, in grade 7, I was a phenomenal basketball player. That was when I was in grade 7. I've moved on from that. Now what am I doing? And so that's what we're talking about, better than you were yesterday. The O in the framework is outlast adversity. And the reality is, in life, we are all going to run through crappy situations, things that hurt us, things that are painful, things that make us upset, things that take us off our course. But the key is you outlast those things. Because when you can outlast, I want to be very clear. I didn't say if, I said when you outlast those things and you get to the other side, that's where all of our greatness lies. So it's incumbent on us to continue to push forward regardless what's in front of us. And so I oftentimes talk about I give the analogy of a boulder. So we're on our path and there's boulders there. What we go up, over, around, through, whatever, but on the other side is where we need to be, because that's where all the riches and the rewards are. And so outlast adversity is what the O is. L stands for live your truth. This is directly tied into us being our true, authentic selves. We all are on this planet and we all are here to be the person that we're meant to be. And again, there's things that hold us back, and I honor those and I respect those and I acknowledge them, but it doesn't stop there. Live your truth, be the person who you're supposed to be. And why I really love the L so much, because when I am able to live my truth and be the person I'm supposed to be, in turn, I'm almost giving license and permission to others to do the same. And I'm influencing and impacting them to be who they're supposed to be. And if we're all doing that, Anthony, just imagine what this world is like if we're all being who we're supposed to be. We're all taking risks. We're all taking that first step. We're all taking chances. It would just be a wonderful, wonderful place where people are truly, authentically being themselves. And then the D in the framework is disrupt the norm. It's really about being a trailblazer, right? Doing something different that hasn't been done before. Steve Jobs made the Apple computer. There wasn't anything prior to that. He wanted to go on his own pathway. You think of all the inventions that we have, they all started with the dream. The plane, now everyone flies planes. Well, before the plane took flight, it was a dream in someone's mind. It was a thought. They asked that question, what if? And it went from what if to the actualization and coming to fruition. And now it's a norm, a part of our lives. If we all were asking what if we all were going off that unbeaten path, going on the unbeaten path, or we all were, doing the thing that we're supposed to do and trying something different and disrupting the norm. Just again, imagine, imagine what that is like. Imagine how dynamic. We're tapping into our creativity. We're tapping into so much positive energies to create something of benefit for others. And so the B.O.L.D framework, I feel that if you follow that through, and we are going to have different points where maybe we're doing something better one day or the other, that's fine. But if we recognize that, if the goal is to achieve these things and work them into who we are in our regular existence and how we are, our being, if you will, again, there's no question in my mind that you, hands down, will live your best audacious life ever.
I love it. There's so much to that conversation. It's in each one of those steps. I look at people and go, all right, look, to be better than I was yesterday, right? Yep. There's one that, it takes a little bit to push me there, right? Because sometimes I'm 54 years old. And I'm about to be 55 here in a couple of months. And I'll look back over my life and go, man, I've changed a lot in 55 years.
Yeah.
But now ultimately, every time I've changed, life's gotten better, right? Like
that's right.
The younger Anthony became a middle-aged Anthony, or
that's right.
Became a little older. Life has gotten better. Now, sometimes I feel like I get tired.
Sure.
Right? I get tired. I'm like, or even sometimes even lazy.
That's right.
I get to the point where, and I think that if I coast, that's what I want. And the truth is, then I get lethargic.
That's right.
I start feeling, I'm not creative.
That's right.
And what I thought I wanted really rarely is, that's not really what I wanted. What I want is to continue to achieve and continue to grow. And there's a mindset that comes and goes.
Yes.
It's like the days I go to the gym, I feel great.
That's right.
Times when I eat cookies and feel bad.
That's right.
I have this kind of, I'm never always perfect at creating better Anthony. It's always kind of a kind of a come and go experience.
Yeah.
Right. And I feel like there's one where I grew up and that wasn't okay. Like I had
Sure.
people shame me for it. Like, oh my God, how could you? And there was a lot of finger pointing at me. You know, I
Yes.
wasn't a good enough Christian. I wasn't a good enough student. I wasn't a,
Right.
you know, even in sports, it was like, you know, friends that razz me about something. So there's a lot to that
Yes.
conversation.
Right.
And I even judge that we weren't trained well at understanding there's an ebb and tide
No.
human experience of that.
Yep, that's right. I really look at it as, and I think what helps is understanding that this is a journey that we're on. It's a continuum. It doesn't stop at this point. It's ongoing process. So that journey of getting better, again, it follows a natural progression. Though on that journey, we're going to have moments where we do feel lethargic, lazy, tired, uninspired, not wanting to do anything, recognizing that that is going to happen. Almost, I also think of like there's hills and valleys, right? You're going to be up on that top of that hill where you can celebrate and you have all these successes and these achievements and you feel good about yourself and all these wonderful things are happening. But as you continue on that journey, you kind of dip into that valley, right? And you're there and it doesn't feel great. Maybe you're feeling tired one day. Maybe you don't want to get out of bed. Maybe you're experiencing something deeper, like a depression, as an example.
Yeah.
There's something is going on with you and you're not being as productive. You're not being creative. You're not tapping in all those good natural energies that we want to get the good stuff out of. And that's where we're not productive, quite frankly. The goal, and again, this is recognizing that the values are going to come. The goal for us should be to get through that valley as quickly as we can so we can get back on the top of that hill and celebrate life. That's our goal, right?
It feels like sometimes that a good friend of mine says, when you're going through hell, just keep walking.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
don't stand out there. I can hang out
Yeah.
there. Now, sometimes I can feel there's part of me that kind of gets off a little bit on maybe even in that drama, right? Gets into a little bit of drama. And I start looking at it going, all right, what are you doing here?
Right. Right.
You're that's not where you want to be. You want to get to that next spot where you're move touch inspired, where you're
yes.
old.
But that internal conversation that you have when you say, what are you doing here, is so important. Anthony, you've touched on that. That internal conversation, the dialogue that we have, the things that we say in our heads to ourselves, it's key because that's the motivator, right? And look, there are some people that need to stay in that valley. There's some people who need that drama, right? It's part of them, but it's recognizing that I can't stay here.
Yeah.
And that's key.
And finding those little steps to get out, right? Yes. It may not be a jump out. It may not be one step out. It may be a couple of steps to get out. And for me, it starts with little tiny, just little good steps, right?
Yes.
Look, if I can make it from here to putting my sneakers on.
Yes.
If I can make it from my sneakers to drive over to the gym.
Yes.
Get in the gym and just do a great workout. Like I just noticed that on the other side of a workout, I feel 100% better.
That's
right.
it.
And I can work on, all right, how can I go help some others? Right. One of the things I've found great happiness in is when I get outside of myself and I help somebody else. Like all of a sudden, oh, look at that. I do an esteemable act, right? Where I help somebody else. I'm not self-serving. Then all of a sudden, I'm like, I feel really, that makes me feel better. Now start working on the other things that you can do better. How can I be a better businessman? Right? How can I show up in my office just a little bit better? Or hey, I want to be a better comedian. Great. You want to be a better comedian? How do I show up? How do I practice? Some better lines. How do I write some better jokes? How do I figure out how to get onto as many stages as possible? Practice skills.
Yep. See, the underlying piece in that is you're not being complacent or content, right? Complacency kills, right? And so it's always challenging. What can I do better? What can I do better? And I think when we we adopt that mindset, which again, I'm not saying it has to, it's going to always be there, because there's times where it's just not, or there's times you don't know what that better is quite just yet. Like, the challenge is coming, but we don't know what it is quite just yet. So we need some time to figure it out. So it's understanding that, still understanding though, that better is still within our grasp and we want to go after it. Right. And so.
Right. So I got the sense that when I sit on my couch and I'm not doing well, that like feeling like a jerk or feeling bad about that is shame, right? Mm-hmm. I start to look at my life and let's say I want to be a better comedian, or I want to be a better businessman, or I want to be a better if I can look at myself in some success and a vision, if I can see myself, up there with the audience laughing, or I can be
Sure.
at work making some good money, or I can see myself driving a nice car, right? There becomes a vision that pulls me forward rather than
Yeah.
being pushed from shame.
Yes.
Something that kind of pulls me forward.
Yes.
What's it feel like after I deliver the best line out there?
Yep.
Right? When I watch the entire people, when I see people blowing snot out of their nose because they're laughing so hard, right?
I love it.
Or where, right? I mean,
I love it.
I don't know what it's like to be a comedian, but I always imagine those guys.
Yeah.
Have you been, you watching Eddie Murphy or somebody deliver a line, and you're just like, I can't breathe. I'm laughing so
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah. That's right.
And
That's what
it's
they live for. They live for those moments, right?
to be able to work an audience like that has got to feel like, as a practitioner, a Dave Chappelle or somebody who, as a
Yep.
practitioner, to watch your ability to sway that group,
Yes.
right? It's got to be just such a wonderful feeling.
Yes.
And I think there's the vision that really pulls me forward, right? As a thought leader, that you like the work that you do, as you watch people really live boldly, right? An audacious
Yes.
life, as you watch audiences go from living this humdrum life that kind of feels painful to a
Yes.
life that's really bold and audacious.
Yes.
People call you up and go, Audley, you've changed my life, right? I
Yep.
know that happens. Look, me just being
Yep.
on your podcast changed my life.
Mm.
Just being around you with that smile, your audacious
Thank
thinking,
you.
who you are, really creates that. I can see how that is a
Right.
vision that really gets you up and drives you for the podcast, the work that
Absolutely.
you do, and the stuff that you're having. That vision that pulls us forward
Yes.
boldly, right? And now having people around you that show you that you can be bold.
Absolutely.
A lot of us don't have that. A lot of us don't have that. That we weren't coached that way.
No, I get you. I
In fact,
get it.
a lot of us came from coaches that were like, kids should be seen and not heard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you show up in the playground and you're a little different. People
Yep.
make fun of you. Like it's the old crab story where the crabs, they want to pull you down from the bucket.
Yeah.
You get
Yeah.
in the bucket, they want to pull you back down.
That's right.
And some of that I have to unlearn, right? I have to
That's right. That's
unlearn
right.
that and just notice, I put that limiting thought on myself. There's really no truth to it, but somewhere I picked that up as a story.
That's right. It could be from someone. It could be from your parents or family. Who knows them? And sometimes it could even be. I know we have coaches and we can have formal or formalized or informal mentors relationships. But it can be just simple as someone believing in you. And Anthony, you're great. Anthony, I can see you aspire to great things. Prior to me obtaining the position of commissioner of the NBL Canada, I started with the organization as a volunteer. I came on board. I love the vision. I love what they're doing. The backstory is, in 2007, I had started this NBA podcast. And then 2011, when the NBA had a lockout, I needed something to talk about. And I mean, social media now is very different from back then. We just had Twitter and Facebook back then. Today, we can tell you what guys had for breakfast, what color their shoelaces are. We can tell you all that stuff. Back then, there wasn't that. So I said, you know what? Maybe I'll switch to this new Canadian basketball league and cover them in that fashion. And I started, and that's where I started. And I probably did. And then throughout the years, I had different roles in the organization. And it was probably around year 5, I brought a really good friend of mine. His name was Rick, and Rick's passed away a few years ago now, but he was a very dear friend of mine. And we went to this public event for NBL Canada, and I was there working the room and doing the stuff that I was doing. And at one point in the evening, Rick came over to me and said, "You know something? I can see you running this league one day." And I was like, whoa. And I wasn't ready for that. I didn't even see these as a possibility. It wasn't my vision. It wasn't in my cards. It wasn't my periphery. I had no idea what he was talking about. So I somewhat dismissed it. I said, oh, yeah, you're just being silly, Rick. Don't worry about it. And moved on. And he goes, no, I can see it. I can see it. And I'm like, okay, thanks. Well, fast forward, 5 years later, I get this call and, hey, we're looking for this. And we think, the board of directors want to appoint you. So, will you take it? And I accepted the role. And I remember in that moment, now by this time, Rick had already passed. And I remember in that exact moment going, oh my gosh, this is exactly what Rick had saw in me. And I remember actually even for a moment sort of feeling a little bit of sadness, because it was like, Rick's not here to see the thing that he saw in me. And it was only a few moments. And then I remembered He didn't need to be here now because Rick already saw it 5 years ago. Right. And that's when I talk about the perspective that others can, that others have a wider perspective of ourselves than we do. We're in a very narrow lane, Anthony, where we see a very limited view. Those on the outside have an expanded perspective. And so they can see that. And so Rick saw that and was able to add that encouragement. So sure, we have mentors, we can have coaches, but sometimes it's just that one person in our corner saying simply, you can do it. And that's all we need.
Someone that can hold the high watch for us, right? Someone who can see the bigger picture of who we are. And today I look at myself and go, all right, how can I do that for others, right?
Yep.
There were people who did that for me, right? People who came into my life and said, man, this guy, you've got something. And look, if you just hone these skills a little bit, you could go here and here and here. And all of a sudden, right, there was behaviors I was doing that weren't serving it. And some of that took a little bit of adjusting, like to learn, all right, let's go look at some of those things. And I might even get as defensive as saying they were character defects. They're behaviors that were maybe even holding me back. They were the stuff that was sticking me to where I was. Yes. And as I started to look at that and get bolder and start looking at, all right, I want to go here. Here's really what I'm up to. I want to go somewhere bigger, bolder. And people saw that for me. People who saw, hey, Anthony, you belong on stage, or hey, Anthony, you belong here, right? You're a natural entrepreneur, you're a natural leader. That wasn't something that was regular to me at the time,
right?
But then they saw it in me, and then that little voice, once it becomes a possibility, I think as we look at all ideas, everything that we see, everything we know, started with an idea from somebody, and if it's either my idea or someone else put it out there, someone saw that for me. Right, someone who created a way of listening for me,
yes,
the world, to go, that's who you. I can see you there.
Yes,
so even they're listening for me. They're seeing me there becomes a possibility for me. And a lot of times I ask myself, how can I be that way for others? How can I help others really look for and the boldness in them?
Yes,
they live into that. That to me is the sign of my next evolution is starting to work from. Look, I've got all these wonderful gifts. Now, how do I continue? We are these amazing creators, human beings.
I want to add gifts and life lessons, right? That's the part of it. That's one of the gifts that we have. Like, we've gone through our own. Again, I talked about that journey. So on your own pathway, Anthony, you've picked up some life lessons, some better ways of doing things, efficiencies, understanding, maybe creating new processes. All of these things is what you learn that you now have the ability to pass along using the gifts that you have as well.
So when we look at living your dream, right? Living your best life, living your vision, right? Your ability. How do people start to find that, right? Start to find their calling in life, right? Where do you go, and how do you start to? Because look, I'm 54 years old. There's days I'm like, I'm not sure what I want to be when I grow up.
Right.
I know there's some things I want to do. Like, I've got a couple ideas, but I keep looking for. I don't know. I feel like I knock them off pretty quickly now. I keep looking for the next vision of what I want to do. So how do you start to look for that?
So first I want to say, I probably should have said this sooner, because there is a misconception of some people think that Audacious, this is I'm the loudest guy in the room, I'm the center of attention, everyone sees me, and that's not what it is all. You can be an introvert, it can be an introvert and living your best audacious life because you're doing the things that you're supposed to. That's essentially what we're talking about here. But I think the question that you asked is a very, very good one. I truly believe that the starting point is having understanding of self, a sense of self, an SOS of who you are. And a big part of understanding who you are is, what are you passionate about? So when I was, like I said, when I was in grade 7, I was a phenomenal basketball player, and I knew I wanted to make it to the NBA. When the reality set in, and everyone grew, and the height, we all, everyone gets to grade 9, you catch up and everyone's your same height. The landscape changed for me. That was no longer my reality. And I had to think of other things that I could do that kept me close to my passion, as close. So we got to find a way to be as close to our passion as we possibly can. I didn't know I'd be a commissioner of a basketball league. But what I did do is I found ways to stay close to the game of basketball because I loved and appreciated it. It got me excited. It got me energized. So the key is, when we know what we're passionate about, we can work hours on end and not feel tired because we love it, right? We have lots of energy for it. We have lots of enthusiasm, lots of ideas for it. So, again, when you can do that, I think you're truly on that right path. And that has to be the starting point. Because really, what's a sense in doing something that doesn't charge you? It doesn't inspire you, right? We like, why do it?
I got a feeling that there's a lot of us, the way the social structure is set up, kids go to college.
Yep.
Now they have to get their parents, like, you have to get a degree.
Yep.
And a lot of them come out with debt. Now
Yep.
they have to get a job to pay the debt.
Yep.
And then a lot of times it's like, all right, if we just were able to slow that down a little bit. My want for my kids is to go have lots of jobs, go try on a bunch of things. I'm like, look, don't worry about a career. Go study things. Go have a job every 90 days. Honestly, if I had a, you'd have maybe every 6 months, or just go try on
experiences,
work with different people, travel, see the world. But sometimes the judges, the world isn't always set up for that, right? Like, I get right into it. Someone tells me I got a story about I've got to go to work. There are kids out there who are living on nothing. The time to live on nothing is before you have all these responsibilities, right?
That's right.
You can go couch surf from friend to friend, get away with that. Not when you have kids, it's a little hard to get away with that. But when you're young, you get away with, and go try on a different job.
But even that, Anthony, that requires a level of boldness. That really does, because you're coming out of that safe space. So traveling the world, as an example. Okay, I've never been here before. What's the language like? What's the food like? How am I like? There's things that you don't know, and that still requires a level of audacity where it's like, you know what? I have no idea what's around the corner, but I'm just gonna step out anyways and see what happens.
I think that's the spot where, take the time. Now, it doesn't mean at 55 I can't do the same thing.
No.
Or 54 I can't do the same thing. Today I'm looking at the next generation of my life. I started looking at, all right, good. I've had 25 years with CDO Group. I've loved this. It's been your CDO Group for me has been a passion in practicing with lots of people. Right, as I look at the people and the teams I get to build, and who I've got to be to grow the company. Like, I look at it and go, man, this has been an amazing adventure, and that's not all I want to be. Like, I loved being the president of CDO Group, and today I'm the founder. My wife took over as the president, and now it's giving me some room to do a bunch of other things. Like, I can do the podcasting. I'm working on TV shows. I'm working on some other businesses we have. And not that I don't love and continue to work on CDO, but I start to look at what are the other things that we can do, and somewhere in there feels a lot more exciting to me than when we go to that spot where, like, well, I should just focus on getting from here retirement, right? Like, that just feels a little bit like, I'm going to become a plant pretty quick.
Well, and I think what that next stage is, you're now in creation mode. It allows you to be in creation mode as opposed to maintaining or operationalizing it. You're actually thinking, okay, what else can I do? What else can I create? What is that, as you said, the next step for me? And that truly is a wonderful place to be.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun to have that. It's fun. And I think that little bit of nervousness is okay.
Yeah.
My judgment is that is ultimately living. That when I get complacent, when I spend the day, now sometimes spend the day on the couch watching TV can be okay, right? I can give myself a little bit. But when I spend a week on the couch watching TV, or a month on the couch watching TV, or I go to a life where I become, it doesn't. I was talking to a guy yesterday who retired a few months back. And he's like, it's not what I expected. He goes, I didn't do a very good job of anticipating what the next, or asking anybody. He was asking, because I was asking about how you doing with retirement. How's the, going from being the business leader that you were to now. He goes, I didn't ask those questions. He goes, I'm amazed that you're asking these questions. I wish I would have asked those questions, because now I'm sitting on the couch and I'm feeling like I'm kind of in a spot, and I want to find something to do. Right. And it's a lot harder from, when I had a job, it would have been a lot easier to be looking for my next iteration. And now I'm in this kind of swirl. He's in a little bit of a swirl, right? And when you're in that swirl, how do you get out of it? Like, how do you get out of the swirl, right? To get you to the next, to getting back to being audacious.
I think recognizing you're in the swirl first is the first point, right? Because we could be in that cycle and have no idea. And one of the ways that you know is when things start feeling mundane and repetitive, and you feel like you're just doing the same thing. Then you can stop and go, okay, wait a second, what's happening? I think that's a key that you're in that swirl. So once we've identified what that swirl is, again, the passionate thing for me is a starting point. It's like, okay, so what drives me? What motivates me? What gets me excited? What do I want to jump out of bed in the morning and do? What are those things? And it could be a bevy of things. It could be 1 or 3, 4, it could be 20 things. Who knows? But the key is to do that work and identifying what charges and motivates you. Because when we're in that, we hear the zone of genius, right? When we're our most creative selves, that's when I think that's where actually all the good stuff can happen, because we're creating it, right? When we're in that zone of genius, we're actually creating the good. And what it'll feel like, Anthony, is like you're attracting goodness to you, right? Where all of a sudden everything's falling into place. And right, you can't get there if you're down in the valley. If you're in the valley being miserable, you're not going to get this, and it's just not going to. And that's why we get up to that top of the hill to get in that good place where we can celebrate, and that's where we grow. That's where the growth happens.
Well, and that's what I want to speak to today is the guy that's stuck there.
Yeah,
the girl that's stuck there, the woman that's stuck there. Or when you're stuck there, look, all of us have gone through that, right? Both of us have gone. We're humans. We go through the ups and downs.
It's a journey of life.
How to get out of there is take one step at a time.
Absolutely.
Literally just take that one step. If it's going to the gym, we talked about it before, changing up my diet, going to help somebody else, taking one step towards the right, getting out of the swirl is the first step out of the swirl, right? It's maybe go to bed earlier, or reading a book better, or finding a podcast I like. It's finding one voice that's not that swirl voice, right? For me, a lot of times, the guy in my head, I call him Fred. We've talked about Fred.
Yeah, I got you, buddy. Fred's
a mess, right? Yeah. He gets me that swirl. He's like, well, you're stuck here. You can't get out of it. And I got to not listen to Fred, because Fred got me there.
Yes.
Fred got me there. I got to listen to him. So for me, a lot of times I'll put a podcast on. Yeah. I'll find a motivational station.
That's it.
1 or 2 things that every morning that help me get right centered, right?
Yes.
Get that off, start thinking about possibilities, and start really creating a future that, all right, great. Oh, there's my vision again. There it is. There it is. I want to go do this. I want to be a comedian. I want to go be a podcast. I want to go, or whatever it is. I want to go work in a I want to become an EMT. I want to go volunteer time. Whatever it is that's got you stuck that you used to want to do, right? I used to want to be a cowboy. Whatever it is.
I love it.
I want to be an astronaut.
Yeah.
Go find one step towards the thing like you did. I want to be around basketball, even though I can't. I'm not playing basketball like I used to. But now you're the commissioner of the basketball league, and when I watch you and your audaciousness, it's contagious. It's right. I want to be around more of that energy. Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. More of that energy in my life. And Swirl, unfortunately, I think you attract that energy.
You do. We have the ability to attract whichever energy. It's our choice. It totally is our choice. We want to do the positive or the negative. And I want to say, the contagiousness, my audacious contagiousness that I possess, we all have that. Yeah. Every single one of us can inspire and impact people in profound ways simply by doing the things that we're meant to do. It's tremendous. And when we do that, and tell you a quick story. A friend of mine, she's an accountant for a corporate firm, and she's not a job that she's happy in. She's just, she does it, and she's doing the school visit, but she's not really inspired by it. And one day we were talking, she goes, you know what I really want to do? I want to work with small businesses. I want to leave the corporate world and focus on small businesses to help them get them to run their business more efficiently, get to a better place, and be profitable and successful. And so we started talking about that. And in that conversation, she mentioned that she heard of someone who did the exact same thing, was unsatisfied in the corporate world, made the shift, now working with small businesses. Her business has grown, but she's finding fulfillment, happiness, and she's living with joy now because of this. And I stopped her for a second. I said, okay, wait a second. I want you to follow this. At one point in time, that woman who you're looking up to, she was at a point too where she had to make a decision. She had to decide, do I stay in that corporate world or I take that step out? She made that step out and she's successful. And now you're looking at her and being in the exact same situation. So you're seeing the same process that you're going through, she went through. And she took that step forward. So why can't you? And so that's how we move, that's how we inspire one another, right?
Just one step. Just
that's it. That's
follow
it.
some. Look, if I can't do it myself, following someone else.
That's right. And and she doesn't know this person. So I want to say that it's not like, so we can talk about, I don't know. You don't have to know this individual. Just got to know their story.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, when I'm around you, I feel my insides alive.
Thank you.
Contagious. You're abundant. I love it. Anytime I can have you on this podcast, I want you on the podcast.
Absolutely.
Anytime I can be on your show, just being around you is a contagious feeling. If people want to get a hold of you, have you speak for them or get to your podcast, let's give them all your credentials.
Sure. My website, bestaudaciouslife.com. It's all things Audley Stephenson. You can find me there. The contact page, you can email me, absolutely reach out to me. I love speaking to audiences and being able to have people understand that the inner potential is inside all of us. We all have it. I'll tell another quick story. My youngest daughter, she's 18. She was born on the autism spectrum. And so children in the autism spectrum, it appears differently for everyone. Everyone's not the exact same. In her case, her speech was severely delayed. And so, okay, she's 5, she's not talking. She's 6, she's not talking. How do we so that was kind of where we're at. And I remember having this overwhelming feeling of like, wow, my daughter's never going to say daddy ever again. I'm not going to hear that. I'm not going to hear her say daddy. And that just tore me up inside, as you can imagine. And I just remember just being so gut wrenching and upset about it. But at the same time, still trying to, so we did the speech therapist and we did all the things that we were supposed to do, but it quite wasn't there. And I can vividly remember I was driving, I live in downtown Toronto. So I was driving down sort of a semi-business residential area and she was in the back seat and we were just driving along and she's probably again 5 or 6 at this time and maybe a little bit older, maybe 7. And as we were driving, I started to hear just random words. I heard flower, butcher, open. And I'm going, Anthony, I was blown away. What she was doing is she was reading the signs and the stores as we were passing them by. So here I am thinking my daughter's never ever going to speak again, but she's not only speaking, she's reading. And so when we talk about the potential, we all have that inner potential inside of all of us to do great things. And we're all on our own time clock. We all, when mine goes off, it'll be different than yours or Sally's or Tom's or Jane's. We're not on the same path. And that's why we never compare ourselves, because we're not the same. And so if we keep that in mind, right, we all have that potential for inner greatness. It's inside of us. That greatness lies inside of us. It's about when we can unlock it. And so I get excited to be able to share that with audiences. So again, my website, bestaudaciouslife.com. I'm on all social media platforms, Audley Stephenson or the Odd Man, THEAUDMAN, not to be confused with ODDMAN, AUDMAN. And please, I'm an engaging guy. Reach out to me, connect. I'd love to talk to you. I'd love to speak to your audiences. And again, share this bold spirit of audaciousness.
I love you, brother. It is a pleasure to have you on our show, and I continue your success.
Thank you,
folks. We'll have all the links down below in our podcast description, how to get to them. And Audley, I am just so enamored with you and the work that you do, and grateful for you being on our podcast. I feel so honored to be here, have you on here today, and
thank you.
Thanks for everything that you do.
Honor is all mine, Anthony. You're a gracious host. So I want to first off to say that, but a wonderful guest at the same time. And so I appreciate you being here. I appreciate the opportunity to share with you again. It truly is a blessing. I know when we walked away from our last conversation, I felt inspired, and I want to make sure that you understand that even those that are inspiring others need others to inspire them. And so I want to thank you for doing that. Thank you for your platform, and thank you for using your gifts.
Thanks. All right, folks. If as always, it means the world to me and Audley to if you guys will like and subscribe right now. Take a second, just do that. Just to Connor and all the team in the background that put the podcast together, the whole group and Grace and all the people back there that put this together. Every like means the world to us. Just take a second and do that for us. It means the world, and it kind of just shows us a little love and do that. Spread the podcast out to everybody else. As always, thanks for being on the show and thanks for listening. And we're grateful.